Hi everyone. Um, so I want to share with you this composition which was clicked by me. So after clicking the hundreds of picture, this was a final picture which I selected for my watercolor painting, and I'm going to share my process, how I'm going to start my painting, what is the process behind, and um, like everything. So let me share with you. This is the reference image, and then another here you can see I have prepared the line drawing. And line drawing you can see here it's in quite detail, so it took me quite some time, like 5 hours, more than 5 hours, to prepare line drawing. And you can see line drawing is quite detailed. Okay. After that I made it light because I don't want this to be visible more in my work. So now what I'm going to do, I have a clay eraser here, and this clay eraser is really good when we want to lift something, especially when we do charcoal works. So it helps us a lot to prepare the painting, to erase, or to come up with the tiny, tiny details. This eraser is good. Same way, what we do, we can use the eraser to lift the extra graphite from the surface. Okay, and this way I can easily lift wherever I feel like that pencil mark is more visible, so I can lift this way. And this is how I lift it from all the areas. Especially I'm going to lift from those areas where it is like highlights or bright lights. So like some of these areas here you can see quite bright light. Here these are the areas. This area, I don't want this to be dark or dull, right? So I have to make sure that I am going to lift the extra graphite from these areas. So when I'm working on the highlight part, it gives me a nice highlight. So you can see this is a painting, drawing, and line drawing is quite detailed. I have lifted the extra graphite with the help of clay eraser. It's very, very important because we don't want those marks. Otherwise, it can make the painting dull. Okay, so I want my areas to be glowing. So I lifted. Then the next thing what I did, I'll show you again. This is my reference image which I'm going to work on, and I'm going to prepare the realistic watercolor painting. Okay, this is my own composition. I have arranged things. I clicked hundred of pictures and then I have selected this one for watercolor painting, and I have got the line drawings here. And now after that I have taken some time and I did color selection. Okay, so here I did everything in detail. I mentioned where I'm going to use which colors and combinations. So colors and then combination of those colors I have added here, and everywhere I have mentioned where what colors I'm going to use for the shadows, what colors I'm going to use for the bright lights and warm tones. Now this we call the part of a project planning, when everything is clear in our mind, so it becomes easy for us to prepare the painting. Now when I prepared this side by side, I also prepared my color palette, right? So this is the color palette, and I have arranged my colors accordingly the way I'm going to use my colors. I have arranged like that. And then I also have prepared some other colors which will going to help me to cover the major area of painting. So again, this is the color. Here you can see mostly I have kept watery paint, and here is a fresh paint. So these the colors which I'm using, this is from Winsor Newton and Daniel Smith colors. I always make sure that I cover it nicely. Same here also, I'm using Winsor Newton and Daniel Smith colors. Plus the this watercolor sheet which I'm using, this one is 140 pounds or 300 GSM from Archie's. So it's a really good quality watercolor paper. So yeah, now the question is how we should start the painting, right? I got this question many times that we are scared of starting painting, how to start the painting, because everything is blank canvas. Okay, and initially, especially beginners, they hesitate to start the painting. So at that time, what you can do, you should start something simple which look very easy to you, and you feel like even if I go wrong, then also it will not be a problem. So what are the areas that we can work on? um, Accordingly, you can, if you feel like that, okay, I should start with this area, you can pick any area which is in corner, okay, not the center part. Because if you go with the wrong in a center part, it can give you a problem, right? Because there are highlights, we can miss these things. So it's better pick something which is darker value, and it will not make that much difference even if you go wrong. So I am thinking that the background part, I'm going to do it later. First of all, I'm going to focus on the subject part, okay? And I am going to start with this, which is banana bread. I'm going to start with this one, and because it's a dark, and I can, even if I go wrong or something happens, then also it will not visible that much. So once I paint this subject, I will get more and more confidence to work on other area. So this is how I start, just to get a warm up kind of feeling, or warm up exercise you can say. I start with something basic, simple, and which is dark, right? So my plan is I'm going to start with this one. Colors I have already prepared. So if I show you what I'm going to use for this part. So mostly this here, I'm going to use this color, which is for the banana bread. I can use raw sienna and burnt sienna light, these color. And slowly I'm going to layer it step by step. Okay. So I'm starting with this one. Let's see how it goes. So I'm working on this part first. The technique that I'm going to use will be wet on dry, because the area is tiny. This one, the surface is tiny, so I don't want things to be here and there. So it's better. I'm going to start with wet on dry. Now, what is wet on dry technique? When we have a wet brush and the surface is dry, so we call it wet on dry, right? So I'll just show you. I'll show you this technique here. So let's say I am going to first of all rinse my brush nicely. There should not be any other kind of pigment, and then I can take any pigment. Let's say I'm using this one. Okay, so my brush is wet right now, okay, and I am applying on top of dry surface. I do lines. So this we call wet on dry. Now, what is wet on wet technique? When I apply some water in my base, so I'm wetting down the surface. Okay, I will wet down the surface. So there should be nice glaze or shine. So I wet down the surface and then I will pick the pigment with some water, and now I'm applying here. So what is this? We call it wet on wet. When my surface is wet, I wet down the paper first and then I'm applying color on top. Okay, so with wet brush I'm applying on wet surface, so we call it wet on wet. Okay, when we directly apply on dry surface, so we call wet on dry. Okay, or we directly apply pigment with some water, so we call it wet on dry. So I hope this much is clear. Now we are going to jump to the painting part. So I am working on this area. Always keep the reference picture close to you so that you can easily copy. So how I'm going to start? First, I will start with the lighter layer. So for lighter layer, I am going to use first raw sienna. And it will be watery paint. And then I'm going to put some burnt sienna light. So this is my burnt sienna light. Okay, this is what I need. And now with the controlled amount of water, it should not be too much of water, so it is not dripping. Okay, it is in my brush, so it should not drip. So this much water is enough for me, watery paint, and I can just go on areas and I can apply this way. So all the areas are almost dark. This way I can do. Or here are some of the areas where I can see a shine. Okay, shine on top of this bread. So for this I can also use a masking fluid. I have a masking fluid here. I'll show you the technique. So here I have this tissue paper. I'm going to cover all the areas because I only want to apply masking in this area. Okay, so I will hide all the other areas. Even the bottom part. I can hide this way. So I will make sure wherever I want to apply masking fluid, I will only cover that area. So I want in this part. Okay. Now this is masking fluid I'm using, Winsor & Newton. And so here I'm going to take a little bit of masking fluid. And I'm going to use my brush for this technique. So I will dip in masking fluid. Remove the extra and then I'm going to sprinkle. And here I accidentally added a lot of, so I can pick that. So I have sprinkled, right? Now I can't touch this area because I will let it dry completely and then I will work on top. I'll keep this side. And now I can remove the paper. So I will wait for some time. So this area, when this area will be completely dry, then I'm going to work on top. Till then, I can work on other areas. I am only working with this brush. This is calligraphy brush. And I'm using this color. This is mix of burnt sienna light and raw sienna. And I will use this color. And for wrapper part, I can use neutral color, which is cobalt blue and burnt sienna. So I'm using mixing cobalt blue and burnt sienna, and it will give me a neutral shade. Okay. This is what I want, and I want this to be watery paint. So as this area is full of details, so I'm going to work with tiny brush. So here I will go layer by layer. So I will take my time because these are tiny tiny details and I will not try to hurry here in this area. So this much light it should be in starting. So yeah, this is how we begin with watercolors. This painting will be quite a realistic painting. So this is my plan. I'm going to make it hyper realistic. If you have any questions related to working with watercolors, you can ask me. I have my reference picture close to me, this one. I'm working on this subject and it will exactly look just like this one. I'm going to make it here. But yeah, it will going to take a good time. So I'm working on this area. I will just make this area expose. Here you can see this part is still it is semi-wet. I'm not going to touch this area. So let's keep working on this one. We always apply colors from light to dark because that way we have a flexibility to add more darker colors as much as we want. And initially if you try to put more and more darker colors, so you will not able to create the depth in your painting, because then you will not able to apply much shade. So whenever you are starting with watercolor painting, make sure your layers go from lighter tone to darker tone. So wherever I'm seeing the darker values, I'm just putting those colors. And if I accidentally put color on top of lighter values, then also it's fine. We can immediately lift with the help of tissue paper. So first I will cover the outer wrapper part, and then I will cover the inside part. So always prepare the batch of color in advance, otherwise you will be running out of color in between. I am working with watery paint, burnt sienna. So I'm not going to put too much of water, otherwise it can disturb the layers or it will give me more patches, right? So I'm going to shift this water to some other area. So this is it today. um, we are going to do from here in next section, or I will be keep updating about my painting, how it is going. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this session and see you soon again with some more work. Okay then, bye for now. Thank you for watching.